My name's Jonathan, and there was a time when I used to suffer major sleep paralysis episodes. I used to wake up in a vegetative state, where I knew I was conscious, but there's no way I could move my body. And during that state, I experienced some pretty bad hallucinations. These episodes occurred so frequently that I still can't figure out how much of it I hallucinated, and how much of it actually happened. Because there is this one time where things got real, freaking the hell out of me. In the beginning, it started with me waking up at night feeling stuck in my own body. I could see, feel, hear everything around me, but couldn't act on it until my body was released. Slowly, this state turned into a more complicated condition. For example, I woke up one night and saw myself standing near the bed and watching myself. I can't tell you how terrified I was after breaking free. I decided to see a psychiatrist for this. Dr. Berman gave me sleeping pills and said with time that it'll pass. He said there's no particular treatment for sleep paralysis other than improving sleep habits, including going to bed at the same time every night, ensuring a comfortable sleep environment free of distractions, and avoiding caffeine before sleeping. I followed his instructions, and for a month I did quite well, but things took a bad turn all of a sudden. One night, I dozed off on my living room couch, and it happened again. There's not much furniture in my apartment because I recently moved in. Apart from the couch, there's a TV set, a lamp, and a rocking chair. The chair was already in my apartment before I moved in. I think it belonged to the previous tenant, and I let it be as it was extra sitting arrangement for me. I woke up with the same feeling of being stuck, but this time, neither I saw myself, nor I felt alone. Instead, I saw someone sitting in the chair and rocking back and forth. I could tell it was a woman, probably in her late 70s. The most terrifying thing about experiencing sleep paralysis is that you will know that you're awake, but you'll also know that you're seeing something that isn't there in real life. I knew there's no one in this apartment except me when I saw this woman sitting in her rocking chair. She didn't turn her face towards me and made a single sound. She just rocked back and forth. This phenomenon started to occur every night, but I was confident that it was all my imagination, because as soon as I broke free from the state of trance, the lady was gone. I told my psychiatrist, Dr. Bergman, about this, and he too said the same thing, that it was nothing but mere hallucinations. I opted for meditation before going to bed, because Dr. Bergman said it would help my sleep, and I did it for a few weeks. I was almost feeling relieved that I stopped having further episodes, until one night, I experienced a living nightmare. I had a friend over. Let's call him Matt for the sake of the story. Matt and I watched a football match and drank a couple beers. Matt drank a bit too much, so he stayed the night at my place. Around 3 a.m., I heard heavy breathing from a very close distance. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a horrifying face leaning over me and looking directly into my eyes. Her white, frail hairs were all over me. It was that woman who rocked in the chair. I wanted to scream, but I realized that I was having an episode and started telling myself that it wasn't real, that this is all my imagination. The woman then spoke to me. "You think I'm not real, huh?" I was gasping for air, as I couldn't breathe out of this shock. She got up and started walking to Matt's side of the bed. I watched her approach my friend with a sinister smile. She slowly came near him and then leaned on him in the same manner. Her jaws then started to stretch into a huge hollow mouth and started devouring Matt's head. She was eating my friend's head like a python gulps its prey. Saliva was dripping from her mouth, and Matt's head was completely inside it. I can't explain how terrifying that scene was. She looked at me with her hungry eyes while sucking the life out of my friend. I wanted to break free and pull Matt out of her mouth, but I couldn't do anything but lie like a living corpse. Suddenly, my alarm went off and I sprung on my bed screaming. Matt woke up with this shock, and the lady was nowhere to be found. "What the hell, bro? What happened? That woman, she was..." And I passed out without finishing my sentence. Matt took me to the hospital. The doctors thought I had a panic attack in my sleep due to the fit of intoxication. My psychiatrist, Dr. Bergman, was also informed, and I stayed in intensive care for a week. Matt still doesn't know what I saw that night, and I don't think I'll ever be able to tell him. I no longer live in that apartment, but before leaving it, I asked the landlord about the history of that rocking chair, to which he told me. Many years back, this apartment was a healthcare unit for mentally deranged people. They had lots of violent patients, among which one patient was the most dangerous. It was a 65-year-old lady who couldn't stand children in her sight. She was brought to the unit after trying to devour a newborn from a local hospital. People claimed her to be possessed, and some even thought she was a practitioner of witchcraft at her young age. She used to sit in that chair and rock back and forth all night and all day. After knowing, I don't think anyone could have stayed in that apartment. But the surprising thing is that no one lived there before I saw this lady, or experienced anything of the sort. I don't know if I imagined her completely, because I knew nothing about her when I started hallucinating her. The other most terrifying thing is that last week I met Matt in a nightclub. He was there partying with his colleagues. I noticed a ring of bruises on his forehead, which wasn't there before. As I asked him what happened to his head, he gave me a very weird reply. He paused and looked at me for a few seconds, and then said, "I must have fallen from my rocking chair." Before starting the story, I would suggest you guys to go subscribe to the channel. It turns out that most of you guys who watch me aren't actually subscribed. So, if you like the content and want to support the channel, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. I was in college when I met Marcus. We became friends in no time. Marcus and I were also part of the popular group, hence we were always around each other. We went to a party at a friend's house and Marcus asked me to be his girlfriend. Everything happened so fast that I barely gave it a thought on whether I loved him or not. When I looked back at it now, I feel the reason I said yes was to remain in the popular group. Everyone in the college started addressing us as the most popular couple, and I enjoyed all the attention. Anyways, after dating for 4 months, I moved to his place because that's where our entire group used to hang out most of the time. It was a rented house with 2 bedrooms, a living area, and an open kitchen. Marcus and I shared the big bedroom, which was at the end of a long corridor. The other bedroom mostly stayed empty unless one of our friends passed out after a heavy night of drinking. I won't go into too much detail about our relationship because that's not important regarding the incident I'm about to share. Marcus was a party animal, and almost every night he drank himself to the core and passed out on the bed. On a similar night like that, we partied hard and Marcus went to bed. I was bidding goodbye to my friends as they all started to leave. We wrapped up earlier that day because we had an important seminar to attend in the morning. I cleaned the living room a bit and started to walk to the bedroom to get some sleep. The house was feeling extremely quiet as the loud music and crazy laughter ended for the night. I was almost close to the bedroom when I heard a gagging sound. I quickly entered the room thinking maybe Marcus is feeling sick, but what I saw creeped me out. Marcus was still lying on the bed, with his eyes wide open, staring at the corner of the room. I could tell he was trying to move, but he couldn't. It was as if he had no control over his body. Seeing me enter the room, his gaze shifted at me, and his eyes turned even wider, as if he had gotten 10 times more scared. I rushed over to him and started screaming, "Marcus, what's happening to you? Get up!" But he couldn't move a single muscle. I got so freaked out that I started calling our friends, when suddenly he gasped and sprung out of bed. It was as if he broke free from a state of trance. He was breathing heavily, and his body was shaking with fear. "Oh my God, are you all right? What the hell was that?" "Water. Just give me some water." I immediately poured himself a glass of water, and Marcus drank it in one go. I waited for him to calm down, and after 10 minutes, his breathing finally became normal, and he got up. He went to the washroom, splashed water on his face, and came back to bed. I said in a worried voice, "Do you want me to call our friends? We can take you to the hospital if you're feeling sick." "I'm fine now." "What happened to you a few moments back?" "It was sleep paralysis. God, I haven't felt that way in a long time. It's nothing to be worried about." "Why were you staring at the corner of the room?" "People hallucinate during sleep paralysis. I'm telling you, it's nothing." Even though I heard many things about sleep paralysis, this was the first time I witnessed someone having an episode like that. We slept on the matter, and the next day didn't tell any of our friends about it. Marcus behaved as nothing happened, but one thing kept bugging me. What did he hallucinate that night? Time went by and this memory started to fade away. Marcus started drinking almost every night, and I didn't like this anymore. We had several fights about his drinking habit. One night we had a huge brawl right in front of our friends. Everyone got awkward and they called off the party that night. Marcus slept in our common bedroom, and I locked myself in the guest bedroom. That night, I cried myself to sleep and passed out on the bed. It must have been 2:30 in the morning when I opened my eyes and found the door wide open. I remembered very well that I locked the door as soon as I stepped into this room. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside the room. I wanted to get up and see who it was, but no matter how much I tried, I couldn't move a muscle. Was I experiencing sleep paralysis? My heartbeat got faster as I realized what happened to Marcus that night is now happening to me. I can't explain the scariest feeling from that moment, but it was like I was all awake in a terrifying dream. Soon, the footsteps started to come closer, and I saw a creepy, bony hand grabbing the wall adjacent to the door. I wanted to close my eyes, but my body was not in my control. Slowly, a dark figure started to lurk in behind the wall. A pitch-black face peeked right into the room, and I saw a pair of eyes staring right at me. They were such big yellow eyes with no eyeballs inside them. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. The figure then gave a huge grin, and I saw his rotten teeth gushing out of his bloody gums. Just then, I heard footsteps coming towards the room, and I woke up screaming out loud. "Sally? Sally!" Marcus was banging on the door and calling my name. Surprisingly, the door was locked this time. I somehow stood up and stumbled to the door. With trembling hands, I opened the lock and fainted on the floor. When I woke up, sunlight was flooding the room, and birds were chirping in the sky. Marcus was sitting right next to me with a worried face. He asked me why I screamed last night, and I told him everything I saw. But as soon as he heard about the yellow-eyed man, his face turned pale. He said in a fumbled voice, "Is this true? Please, don't make things up." "Why would I lie, Marcus? I'm scared. What is happening to me? I've never experienced sleep paralysis before. I know it was just a hallucination, but it felt so real." Marcus kept quiet for some time, and then held my hand. "There's something I didn't tell you that night." "What night?" "The night you saw me having sleep paralysis." I looked at him with confused eyes, and he went on saying, "When I was 13 years old, I had my first episode. I watched myself sleeping in that episode. I thought it was just a dream, hence I didn't bother with it. But as time passed, I started seeing this dark figure walking into my room, and sometimes standing in the corner. I've never seen someone so scary. It was a pitch-black human figure, more like a shadow. The only thing that stood out in his feature was his yellow eyes and a terrifying grin with rotten, bloody teeth. My mom took me to see many psychiatrists, and after heavy doses of medication, I somehow stopped having experiences like that. But that night, after a really long time, I saw him again. He was standing in the corner of my room and watching me. But when you came into the room, I saw him standing right behind you. That's why I got so freaked out, but is it possible for two people to hallucinate the same thing? I shouldn't have brought this on you. We both felt paranoid and had no idea what to do about this situation. I mean, there's no way we could share this with someone without being labeled as crazy. We had no other choice than to keep it in us. Also, I didn't have any episode after that night, which is why I thought to ignore this matter. Until one night, things got out of hand. I woke up again in the same manner, finding myself caught in a trance. I could see Marcus deeply asleep beside me, and no matter how much I tried, I couldn't wake him up, because I couldn't move or scream at all. I gazed at the room, waiting to get shit scared by that yellow-eyed man once again, but I didn't see anyone around. My breathing got heavy and I waited to wake up, when I suddenly heard a chuckle right next to my ear. I looked at the side and saw the yellow-eyed man lying next to me. I can't tell you how horrifying he looked, and I almost felt my heart would stop. When I just blinked once, the man was gone. I got up panting in fear and started to wake up Marcus. "Get up, Marcus, he's here! Please, you must get up!" While pushing him vigorously, I kept my eyes on the door expecting the yellow-eyed man to return. But suddenly, Marcus sprung on his bed and started to strangle me. He choked me with all his strength and I kicked in the air to free myself. The pressure on my chest made me feel that my heart would explode. Just then, I finally woke up. Yes, that was the craziest sleep paralysis experience one could ever have. Marcus was still asleep, and I realized that this sleep paralysis episode is just getting worse for me. I couldn't sleep the entire night. Next morning, I didn't say a single word to Marcus and moved out. We still dated till the end of the term, but things changed between us. I was too scared to spend nights with him, and he had this guilt, which he obviously didn't deserve. We parted ways, and it's been 7 years. I haven't heard from him. I don't know how we both hallucinated the same thing, but whatever it was, I consider that phase to be the darkest time of my life. I still don't know whether that yellow-eyed man was real, because Marcus never told me about him until I saw him myself. What do you think? So this happened in recent times, and honestly, I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm a 23-year-old male. When I was 10 years old, my cousin, Judith, lost her parents in a car accident. My parents adopted her and we grew up together. She studied in the same school as me, and moved out as soon as she turned 18. Even though my mom tried to be a mother figure, Judith always kept her distance from us. I know she created a wall after losing her parents. After moving out, she cut all ties with us. My parents sent her gifts on her birthday, but she never returned our calls. Last week, my grandma called me saying Judith has arrived, and she's in very bad condition. My mom and I rushed to see her. She was a completely different person. Her pretty face was filled with scratches and scars. Her nails were filthy, and her eyes were always moving. Judith got into severe heroin addiction. We took her to the doctors and helped her get over it. I still remember those nights when she woke up screaming because of her withdrawal. She scratched her skin so badly that her flesh tore up and started to bleed. I had to come back for my work, but my parents stayed with my grandmother to take care of her. I stay in a one-bedroom apartment. One night, I was sleeping in my room. Suddenly, I woke up hearing a knock on my door. I got up and walked to the main door. I was thinking, who could it be at this hour of the night, when I saw Judith standing in front of me. I obviously didn't expect her, because last time when I talked to my mom, she told me Judith was living in rehab. Judith? How did you get here? Is everything all right? Judith didn't say anything. She just smiled and slowly walked in. Her face was different this time. She was looking calm and pale at the same time. I closed the door and followed her into the living room. She stood near a shelf and kept staring at our childhood photograph that I kept there. "Judith, is everything fine? Does Mom know you're here?" She turned around and kept staring at me, as if she forgot to speak. I got worried, thinking she might have escaped from rehab and came here. I was going to call my mom and let her know about this, when the phone rang. "Sit down. I'll be back in a minute." I went back to my room and picked up the call. Surprisingly, it was my mom. "Hey, Mom, you won't believe what happened. Judith..." But before I could finish, I heard my mom crying over the phone. "Mom, what happened?" "Max, Judith is no more. The people called from rehab. She slashed her wrist with broken glass. Poor Judith." My senses went numb. My heart was pounding in my ears. If Judith is dead, then who the hell is standing in my living room? I slowly turned around, and there she was, standing right behind me. I screamed and passed out on the floor. When I woke up, I saw daylight coming from my window. I slept on the floor the entire night, but I couldn't tell if it was a dream or I imagined everything. The next day, I went to my grandmother's house to attend Judith's funeral. I didn't tell my mom about that night. After the funeral, my parents insisted that I stay the night at Grandma's. We had a quiet dinner and went to sleep. My parents and Grandma slept downstairs. I slept upstairs. Judith and I used to share this room, and we used to travel here during our summer vacations. I couldn't help to think about Judith that night. I dozed off thinking all this when I heard my alarm going off. I opened my eyes and realized that I couldn't move. I could only move my eyes, and it took me a few seconds to understand I am having sleep paralysis. My breathing increased rapidly. It was the most terrifying state of mind one could ever experience. Before going to bed, I hung my jacket behind the door. I kept staring at it while wanting to break free from the situation when my jacket started to float in the air. It started to come at me floating on its own when Judith appeared from the darkness. She stretched her hands and showed me her slit wrists. Blood was dripping from her cuts. She didn't say anything. She just stood there. Suddenly, I wiggled my toe and understood my body had been released. But Judith didn't disappear this time. She stood there staring at me with her wide eyes. I asked in a gasping voice, "What do you want from me? We never did anything wrong to you. We loved you. Stop torturing me like this." My mom rushed into the room hearing my voice, and as she opened the door, she saw Judith standing near my bed. Judith turned at her and screamed in a demonic voice. My mom didn't even get the time to scream. She just fainted on the floor. We had to hospitalize her as her pulse dropped rapidly, and she had a mild heart attack. I stayed the entire night at the hospital. The next morning, my mom regained consciousness. She started crying, and I tried consoling her. "Mom, please. We've done enough for her. It's no one's fault that There's something we never told you, Max. We thought if you knew, you would think the same thing Judith thought about us." "What is it, Mom?" "Judith wasn't your cousin. She was your sister." "What? What are you saying?" "I got pregnant when I was in high school. Your father and I weren't in the position to take responsibility of a child, so we gave her up for adoption. But fate always plans differently for each one of us. Your uncle and aunt were childless, so they went for adoption. And look at my luck. They ended up adopting my daughter. Even though it pained me to see my daughter being raised by someone else, I couldn't do anything. We wanted to tell Judith, but we didn't want to take her away from them. As more time passed, I started to notice something different in Judith's behavior and appearance. I found bruises on her body and came to know that your uncle and aunt abused her. We immediately confronted them about this violent crime, and a huge brawl took place. They took Judith with them and got into their car to escape. Your father and I chased them, and unfortunately, they met an accident on their way. We saved Judith, but your aunt and uncle died." She took a pause, and the silence in the room started killing me. I screamed, "Why didn't you tell me that she was my sister? Why didn't you? All these years, you made us live in a lie? The situation was such, and we didn't want to escalate the matter further. Also, we got Judith back. Didn't we adopt her and shower her with all our love? Oh my God, you must be kidding me. Showered with all your love? Your daughter never knew her real parents. She grew up in an abusive home, and that's the reason why she took her own life. We could have saved her. You could have saved her. Hell, I could have saved her." I bolted out of the hospital cabin in furious anger and saw my dad standing in the hospital corridor with a fragile face. I looked at him and said, "You knew all this time and still kept your daughter away. Still kept my sister away. I don't think I'll be able to ever forgive you." That's the last time I saw my parents. It's been 3 years since. I haven't met or talked to them. But every 6th of August, I wake up in the same state of trance, where I can't move a muscle, and I see Judith standing near my bed, crying tears of blood. I don't know if it's her ghost or my guilty conscience that regrets not doing enough for my sister.